Hello everyone, welcome to the QLN session. In today's session, I am going to introduce you with one of the concepts known as fixtures in a playwright test automation. To understand fixtures, let's just see what it means by fixtures. According to Wikipedia definition, a fixture we will see a software test fixture sets up a system for the software testing process by initializing it, thereby satisfying any precondition the system may have. So as we saw this definition, a fixture is nothing but a set of instruction or a set of program which does pre-initialization so that our test can rely on some setup which is done by this fixture. So to understand these fixtures very well, I have created a demo application. We will see usage of fixtures with the help of demo application. To explain this further, I'm going to start the demo application. So if you see, we have this dockerized demo application to do API. I'm going to start this to do API. This to do API is built in Spring Boot, and this API is starting now. Now let's see this to do API, how does it looks like. This to do APIs have a Swagger interface as well. So Swagger is nothing but a UI for APIs created for to do APIs. So we will see how does Swagger API look like. So if I go to this definition of this to do APIs, we will see a nice user interface showing which all APIs are present for this to do application. If you see, there is a get API with the ID, put API with the ID, delete API with the ID, patch, and get for getting all to dos, post for posting to dos. And you will see there is APIs for creating user, post API, and logging into user as well. Let's try to execute the get API. If I try to execute this get API, I see a 403 unauthorized. It means that I'll need to create a user to actually get started with these to do endpoints. So first I'm going to do is I'm going to create user with name user ATM and password ATM. Now let's execute this. If you see, in the response we got a token, and this token is nothing but the authorization token which these to-do endpoints were expecting. Swagger gives you a UI to put this token inside your request. So now I am going to put this token under authorization, and now if I execute this get again, you will see this skull representation of a request says that it has passed additional authorization bearer and token, whichever token we set in the authorize. And I got an empty list of to dos because we haven't yet created to do so far. So let's try by creating a to do. Now if I create a to do, bring milk, I don't need status, it is an optional field. So if I create a to do, you will see that there is a 201 now we got because we have authorized the request and we are now authorized to perform this operation, and we got in response body that this kind of to do is already created. And if I hit get endpoint again, I'll get the recently created to do from the least endpoint. So this is pretty simple basic application. Now you would wonder why we need fixtures to test this application, right? Now if you consider invoking to do APIs as a test purpose steps, a precondition for that test purpose step is creation of user or generating token for the user, right? We can either invoke login endpoint like this. I will pass username ATM and password ATM. I'll need to log in, and the login endpoint will emit token, and I'll need to use those tokens in this while invoking this to do APIs. That's the precondition that we have, and fixtures allow us to do that pretty well. So now without any further delay, let's look at the automation of these APIs with fixtures, how simple it looks like. This is the simplest test that we can write with fixtures. The only difference you see over here is instead of request, which you generally have with Playwright APIs, we have something called as an authenticated request. And this authenticated request, we are making a post call. We are passing username and password and the endpoint to which we want to post, and the body, the same body that we passed while invoking the Swagger API. Now if I run this test, you will see this test is passing. All the magic is happening behind the scenes by the authenticated request fixture of logging into the application, noting down the token and reusing that token. So let's see how this magic is happening with the fixture. So if I go into the definition of this authenticated request and what this test means, if you see this test over here is the extension of base, and this base is nothing but the original test method that was given by Playwright. So we are extending the original test that was given by Playwright with a fixture known as an authenticated request. And this authenticated request is defined as that we are creating a new object of a class authenticated request. We are passing a request which is nothing but the fixture request fixture that Playwright originally gives. We are passing it as a dependency, and we are saying use AR, which is nothing but use authenticated request fixture. So all magic behind the scene is happening because of this class authenticated request. Now if you see, authenticated request is having method post which we were calling in our test, which has username, password, URL and data. And what it does is it sort of stores. We don't want to generate tokens again and again. If the username and password is same, we can reuse the token, and that's what the static variable tokens does. It is having a record of string, which is nothing but a hash map, if you say in layman's term. So this hash map has a string and string, and to this token we are passing username and password with a hashed pipe. And if we see that if this token key is present, we are saying over here, if this token key is present, if this token key is not present, we need to log in. So this login method is doing the hard part of the application, that it is calling the login endpoint with username password. It is extracting the token and it is returning that token, and this token is being saved again into the tokens static object. And this token static objects token will be reused again and again. And then we are making actual post call on actual request object which was passed into the constructor, and we are passing it headers, authorization, bearer and the token which we just now grabbed. If you were not already logged in, if you are already logged in, we will get this token directly from the static object map. So this is the simplest like 34 30 33 34 lines of code that we return, but we have made our test so much simple. And this is the usefulness of fixture. You can create fixtures for a lot of purposes. Now we have created this fixture for authentication, so that we don't need to do authentication again and again. We just can get authenticated request and just pass it username and password, and it will hash the tokens and do all of the hard work of storing the tokens and everything. You can use fixtures for various other purposes. Hope this session would turn helpful for you. This session was sponsored by Sedin Technologies. We built this to do API application for our training purposes and to understand fixture and all. We do all of these things in Sedin Technologies to for growing our learnings. Hope you find this helpful. Stay tuned for the next blogs.